Season 2023 is done, and I'm going to be ranking every trade or grading them out of 10 that was completed in the off season. And I'm going to be ranking this based off what the clubs got. So the club went for player X, what was the expectation of player X, and consider what, the team gave up for player X. So starting off, Hawthorn, they signed Carl Amon from Port Adelaide. It was a free agent signing, so you got to take that into account. Hawthorn didn't give up anything. Yes, Port Adelaide got a second round pick as compensation. Hawthorn, great free agent signing. Kind of what they needed, a bit of experience, but not old. Like, he's in his sort of prime years, youngish. On the wing, he was really bad at the start of the season, but then he sort of picked up his performances and performed how he did. He's a great example of a player who, when his contract is expiring, they play like prime Dustin Martin, and then as soon as they get that big contract at whatever club, they sort of settle back into their actual form. A bit of that in him. Like, he was great in his last season for Port, and he hasn't lived up to that at Hawthorn, but because it's a free agent pickup by Hawthorn, I'm giving that trade a 7 overall. Bobby Hill, in hindsight, this has to be a high score because he got the Norm Smith, and the crazy part is Collingwood got Bobby Hill effectively for just a future second round pick, which is remarkable. It's a 10 out of 10, easily, probably in hindsight, the best trade of the window considering his finals performance. Tim Taranto next. GWS gave up pick 12 and 19 for Taranto. A lot of high draft picks. However, Taranto performed really well. Was a Brownlow shout for a large portion of the year. However, the votes just didn't go his way on the night. Nonetheless, Richmond's best player. He won the Richmond Best and Fairest. He didn't really help Richmond at all in terms of their ladder position, but he was definitely our best player coming from a Richmond fan. He was our shining light alongside Dustin Martin. I think that trade gets a 9 out of 10. Yes, 12 and 19 picks. Pick 12 and 19 were given up for him. However, because he performed so well, it's a 9. Jaden Hunt, free agent, went back to Perth. I believe that's where he's from. Signed him from Melbourne. But because it's a free agent pick, he did alright. It's West Coast. I could probably play for West Coast, and I'm a fat bastard. I think that gets a 6 out of 10. Not inspirational, but it's a free agent, so you don't lose too much there. Carlton, they got Blake Acres. He played for his third club now. He was great in the final series, so I'm keeping that into account. Fremantle got a third round pick for him, a future third, so that's pretty great business from Carlton. That gets an 8 out of 10. It was pretty important throughout the year for Carlton as well. Collingwood, they got Dan McStay from Brisbane, who received a second round pick. I'm not sure this is as a free agent. It doesn't say here. He was in and out of the side, obviously injured, didn't play the grand final. Overall, I think that trade probably gets a 6 out of 10. The Dogs, they signed Liam Jones. Carlton got a third round pick, so not too much given up for him. He is old, went back to the Dogs. The Dogs needed a defender, so it suited them well. I think that trade gets a 7 out of 10. Zane Cordy, free agent from the Dogs to St Kilda. The Dogs didn't receive any compensation, which is a bit harsh. Free agent, so can't go too wrong, but he didn't do much. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. North Melbourne got Griffin Logue and Darcy Tucker from the Dockers. Fremantle received future second, a third, a fourth. So overall, considering that, Griffin Logue gets a 6, Tucker gets a 5, but it is hard to grade them because it was a package deal, so you don't know what was given up for each player. So that one's a bit hard to grade. Ben Long went to St Kilda for effectively a third round pick, you would say, on average. He was, for Gold Coast, 4 out of 10, uninspiring. He was the same as what he was at St Kilda, which was inconsistent. Gold Coast got Tom Berry from Brisbane Lions and heaps of pick swaps. Overall, uninspiring, another 4 out of 10, didn't do much. Fremantle got Josh Corbett from the Gold Coast, who got a future 4th round pick. Look, he didn't do much. I'm not too fussed. It's probably a 5 out of 10. Tanner Bruhn, GWS, got pick 18. Tanner Bruhn went from Giants to Geelong. One for the future. I really like him. He had glimpses, performed well. I feel like I want to give it a 9 out of 10 because of what he can do in the future. He looks so talented, but we'll give it an 8 because he's still young. Toby Bedford went to GWS from Melbourne for pick 44. That's a steal. That is an 8 out of 10. Bedford, pretty pivotal for the Giants. Luke Jackson, wow, heaps of picks. Jackson, pick 44 and 67, was given a Fremantle. Melbourne got pick 13, future first, and a future second. So a lot was given up for him in hindsight. Probably on average a future first. He didn't perform great, but you can't blame him because he's playing in a really poor Fremantle side. So I think that trade gets a 6 out of 10, considering he was bought for the future, not just for the now. Essendon, they got Will Setterfield, and effectively Carlton got a 4th rounder. Pretty decent trade for them. He hasn't been special, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Adelaide, Isaac Rankin, and heaps of picks. Effectively a 1st rounder. Was it worth it? I think it is. He's a guaranteed star in the future, not just on the field, but off the field, you would assume, because he's so exciting, he would have heaps of shirt sales and all this shit. I think it's a 9 out of 10. Every year is going to get better, and you'll soon see him be the best small forward in the comp. Jason Horne-Francis and Junior Rioli, so a package deal there. They joined Port Adelaide from obviously 2 different clubs. This is a confusing trade. Ultimately, Jason Horne-Francis to Port Adelaide and North got what looks like 2 first rounders. Not worth it, I don't think, but in terms of his performance this year, Jason Horne-Francis, he was impressive, so young, so raw. That gets a 7 out of 10 because 2 first rounders and others were giving up to him. Okay, so keep that into account. Junior Rioli, he was good for Port Adelaide. I'm too confused to see what was given up for him. It says here pick 8, 12 in the future second, but that makes no sense. So this whole trade is really confusing. But Junior Rioli, just based on his performances, probably a 7 out of 10. Jack Gunston, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. The reason being, Brisbane needed some experience to push for the flag. He helped them. Yes, he dropped himself throughout the year, but I thought he performed really well. Good forward line player, experience in finals, experience in grand finals. Hawthorn got pick 48 and a future 4th, so I guess a bit was given up for him, but I rate the transfer. Brodie Grundy, the famous one, went to the D's from Collingwood. Collingwood got pick 27, which in hindsight at the time, well, in hindsight it seems like a steal, but at the time I was a bit dubious, like, wow, this guy could turn back into one of the best rucks in the comp for pick 27. However, it's failed, completely capitulated. Collingwood get the dub on this trade. Melbourne get rinsed. It is a 2 out of 10 for me. Jack Bowes, I tip this to be the best trade, or in the trade window. You would have seen it on TikTok, FTFooty, follow me. That's who I had as the best trade of the season in my preseason prediction, and he didn't live up to it. Geelong got Bowes and pick 7. This trade's confusing. It says Geelong got Jack Bowes and pick 7, and Gold Coast got the Cats' future 3rd round pick. That might be a typo. I'm just going to go based off his performances. He didn't help Geelong and he looked shaky at times. I didn't rate him in that side. I don't think he fits. He's sort of, watching Geelong this season, or last season I guess you can call it, he looked like he didn't fit the puzzle. You know, the puzzle piece was a little too big or a bit too small. It just kind of fucking irked me. I think in hindsight, because of the hype and expectation, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. He hasn't lived up to what I thought he would, but that's super harsh and I understand that. Billy Frampton, Collingwood got Billy Frampton, such a famous name now. Obviously he went from Adelaide, who got a future 3rd round pick. I mean, he played in the grand final and had one of the greatest games in a grand final I've ever seen. 1 touch, minus 4.1 champion data rating. Seriously, he was so bad. But I guess he played his role in helping them win the flag. If you consider that, he gets a decent mark, but it's pretty uninspiring, but he is young, at his 3rd club now, which is always concerning when a player swaps from clubs so many times at such a young age. I'm giving the trade a 5. Jacob Hopper, I'm a specialist on this. Richmond got Hopper, couple late picks. GWS got pick 31 and a future 1st rounder. So a lot was given up for him. Yes, he's young and he can improve, but based off this season, he was poor. It's a 4 out of 10 for me. Aaron Francis, Sydney got Aaron Francis from Essendon, who got a future 4th effectively. He was not really there for Sydney, but they did have a lot of injuries in the back line, so he sort of played back and a bit of forward. Overall, uninspiring, 4 out of 10. Sam Wiedemann, this gets a 1 out of 10. Went from Melbourne to Essendon for effectively a pick 37, but it was a bit of a pick swaps. But at Melbourne, everyone thought, you know, this guy is the next big thing. Goes to Essendon and he flops. Josh Shaki went to Melbourne. The D's got a future 4th rounder. So look, in hindsight, it's a 5 because nothing was really given up for him, but he just sucks. I'm sorry. It's a 2 out of 10. Lockie Hunter, Melbourne, also getting Lockie Hunter from the Dogs, like Josh Shaki. However, this was a future 3rd rounder for a player that's past his prime, in my opinion. I think this was pretty uninspiring given what Melbourne needed. I feel like they have a plethora of wingers and mids, but hey, depth. I'm going to give that trade a 6 out of 10 because he was in the team throughout the year. Now, there's a 3-way trade. Collingwood got Mitchell, Geelong got Ollie Henry, Hawthorn got Cooper Stevens. Mitchell, because all the picks are confusing, I'm going to give Mitchell a 8 out of 10. I think it was great, really good, maybe even a 9, but we'll stick with an 8. Geelong, Ollie Henry, I thought he was going to be a great signing, but hasn't really lived up to it too much. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Cooper Stevens, I don't think he played at all, Cooper Stevens, so it's one for the future, so so I'm keeping that in hindsight. It's the 5 out of 10. Josh Dunkley, I think it's a 9 out of 10. Yes, heaps was given up for him, but he's a young, talented midfielder. Clearly showed a lot of promise at the Dogs. Just couldn't really break into their midfield too often, but it's a 9. I really rate Dunkley. Rory Lobb, the Dogs got Lobb and Freeman got pick 30 and a future second round pick. That's a lot. Dogs lost this trade. Rory Lobb didn't look great. Yes, he played a lot, but I thought he looked shocking when he did play. Super confused why they got him, because the Dogs have heaps of forward talent. Second ruck, but why can't you play one of your tall forwards as the second ruck? I don't rate him. It's a 3 out of 10 for me. Fremantle got Jaeger Amira. Hawthorn got Lloyd Meek and a future second round pick. Who won this trade? I think Hawthorn won this trade. Got rid of some deadwood in Amira. Lloyd Meek, he had an alright season. I don't think much was expected of him. I think Hawthorn won this trade. Jaeger Amira, I think he probably gets a 4. Pretty uninspiring. Lloyd Meek, pretty simple 5. And that's every trade. Let me know if you agree with the rankings, or the ratings, sorry, that I've given every trade. What would you give the ratings? Or what would you give every trade? If you had to rate them, let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you in another video.